going to say something on the TV. For the fans back in Melbourne at the Crowbar tonight, all the players will be there. And next weekend at Melbourne Knights Stadium, big disco.
Those days were exceptional.
Incredible memories, incredible day.
It was just unbelievable.
You know, I was pinching myself to make sure it was real.
One of the proudest moments of my life.
Obviously, this is the important game of the year, as we found out the last 3 years. You know, there's one grand final to be won, and we want to win that.
That's a sore point for you, isn't it, Stabber? Because unfortunately, my dear friend, you have the ignominious record of 3 grand final losers medals. That must really hurt.
Certainly does, mate. But hopefully this year will change it, Kyle.
We were, you know, the best team in the 90s during that era, along with obviously Adelaide City, but we just didn't have a championship to show for it. Going through the grand final losses, you know, we had obviously the South Melbourne was the first one, but then the next 2 against Adelaide. One went to penalties and one we lost 1-0 to a Damien Morris screamer from 30 yards.
It was great rivalry, and what we all strive for is winning championships.
This is the NSL Grand Final at Hindmarsh Stadium in Adelaide, and it is absolutely packed to the rafters.
It was definitely a challenge, you know, to go over there with their crowd and their incredible support, you know, to go and try and win a grand final.
These 2 leading clubs, Adelaide City, the Melbourne Knights, has been the leading pair of clubs throughout the season.
We've done so well throughout the season, so there was great expectations that we would win, but being away from home, out in Adelaide, probably against our biggest competitors at the time, yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, to say the least.
And the supporters who've made this long trip across from Melbourne.
I remember the supporters were behind the goal with a massive fence that just overlooked the pitch. The atmosphere was just electric.
And the grand final is underway.
We had a great first half, you know, we really put the pressure on them and, you know, really took it to them in the first 45.
The ball was high in the air, and as it was coming down, I could see I was the nearest player to it.
I remember Viduka saying, "Stabber, leave it, leave it." He had no hope of me leaving that ball, let me reassure you.
Vjesnik, mark again. Good shot from every mark. Fantastic goal. Out of nothing, really.
I'm glad that he scored, because if I probably had a shot, I'd probably hit one of the churches in Adelaide, but that goal was just magnificent.
Pekka had no chance of saving that ball, and that just started the phenomenon.
His first goal really set the tone, you know, for the game, and he's, you know, one of the best leaders I've ever been around in a football sense. Probably reminds me of somebody like Roy Keane, you know. You always want them on your side. He's ready for the battle, and yeah, probably underrated as a footballer as well.
The ball sort of came across from the left. I think Marusic sort of crossed it in and took a little bit of a deflection just before it sort of got to me. I was sort of there just for easy tap in, but it sort of took a bit of that deflection, and I had to sort of readjust, and luckily, you know, got the shin pad on it or something like that, and got the goal.
He's been in the thick of things all day. 2-0 to the Knights.
I thought we totally dominated the whole game, and I think they hit a crossbar. That was probably closest that they came. The culture of the club at the time was unbelievable.
Most of the players had other jobs, and we weren't fully professional, but the morale in our team was second to none. We were a pretty close-knit family, and I think that was the difference.
We were a really young team. I was 24 at the time and probably the 3rd oldest player in the squad. So we were very together.
It was probably the youngest team ever to win a national championship, which, you know, says a lot about the group and the camaraderie.
After so many years of disappointments for the Knights, on the big day, they've finally got one right. The 1995 NSL champions of Australia.
After what we had been through as a club and losing 3 consecutive grand finals, where we dominated the whole year, those 3 years, there was just a huge relief lifting that trophy.
Sharing that experience with people that have volunteered and been around this club for so long and experienced so much disappointment from the late 80s, early 90s to the 94 grand final, to finally win it for them as much as for us as a team was probably a highlight and a great memory that I'll cherish forever.
Those fans were just passion. They were with us every step of the way, you know. Without that support, especially away from home in Adelaide, you know, it felt like it was our home game at times. So you know, they really helped us through and got us to that level.
To join in the celebrations at the end, you know, on the pitch, it was a time to remember, and obviously, you know, very unforgettable time. And being a Melbourne Knights fan my whole life, it was extra special, I felt. You know, I was pinching myself to make sure it was real.
Straight after the game and celebrating, it was just an unbelievable experience. I got goosebumps talking about it. It's just unbelievable.
We had a lot of homegrown Croatian kids, and it meant a lot to this community. And obviously going through the situation they did back home to give us some more guidance and exposure, well, absolutely huge for this club and this community, and the culture that instilled at this place here was second to none. I feel very, very privileged to be part of that playing group and this great club.